Hello, hello, and welcome to the Beautifully Aligned podcast. I am so happy you're here. I'm jumping right into the topic today, and that is how to serve your future versus your past. And above that, how to create the best possible future that you could ever imagine for yourself. I don't know about you, but for me, I have spent so much time just ruminating over the past, like thinking about situations and what I could have done differently. I wish I would have done XYZ sooner. I wish I would have said this instead of this, and just ruminating. And you know where that's gotten me? You guessed it. Absolutely nowhere. And if you are the same way, or if you have been caught in this pattern of thinking and just ruminating about your past, replaying situations, thinking you should have done XYZ sooner, it really does nothing for you but staying stuck. One of the key components of depression is actually staying stuck in the past and replaying the past in your head. And just that stuckness is what gets us in that depressive loop. And on the flip side, anxiety is where you're like thinking future focused, but in a negative way, anticipating the worst that's going to happen. This episode is not about anxiety or depression, but the depression piece came to mind as I was talking about just ruminating on your past. I know it is easier said than done to not ruminate and stay in that negative loop, but I'm going to give you some tools today as far as how to get yourself more future focused, not in that anxiety mindset, but in a very positive mindset to actually make some shifts to create your most beautiful, beautifully aligned, if you will, future. So I promise you that when you do this, you will be able to just stop focusing on what's behind you and instead just use that beautiful energy, like kick that bad energy to the curb and let's use that energy into something beautiful and create your most fulfilling, joyful, effervescent future. Before I get into the tools, I want to read you this quote because it is so perfect for today's topic. And that is this: we remain young to the degree that our ambitions are greater than our memories. And Dan Sullivan, a fellow coach, said this quote. And this is so true that when you're thinking about your ambitions in a bigger way, AKA future focused, versus your memories of the past, we remain more youthful. Isn't that so cool? I just love that. And I had to share that just to kick this episode off. So one of the first steps to letting go of your past and not staying in that stuck loop of getting hung up on past failures, what you might have said, done, I should have, could have, would have. How to get over that is to accept it for what it is. Yes, sometimes it's way easier said than done. But when you can accept your past for what it is, you can start to shift the patterns in your life and therefore your behavior, relationships, etc. when you first accept the past and the present for what it is. And then from there, you can go and decide what you want to become and what your future is to become. That's more interesting, more fun, and just like I said at the beginning of this episode, such a beautiful use of your energy. And this stuckness that I'm mentioning also pertains to past successes. So we're not just talking about past failures or things that maybe you're hung up on and can't forgive yourself for, or you're working to forgive yourself for. This is actually also pertaining to success. So if you're wanting something different for your future, your past successes, they might or they might not dictate as far as how you got to that success, how you're going to reach the success or whatever it is that you want in your future. You've probably heard the quote, "What you got here won't get you there." And your attachment to your previous successes, whatever they were, or failure, this can go for success or failure, and your identity in that attachment is actually keeping you stuck. If you're wondering, okay, but how do I actually practice that detachment from my past? The best way, this works for me. There's many different ways that you can do this. There's two ways for me. Number one is journaling, and in that process, just accepting what it is and what I'm writing, and then writing down, I am physically and emotionally detaching from this experience. And then I replace it with future focused energy and what I'm doing. The other way is to actually visualize yourself detaching, like your physical body, or emotionally, or whatever makes most sense for you, but to actually visualize the detachment of these two things separating. This has also helped me immensely. So I wanted to share those two ways that you can start to practice that detachment, but also I'm going to share some ways to actually just replace that energy of ruminating on the past with more future focused, positive activities. So, next, I want to get into your personality and your relationship with yourself. This is really interesting. I have some notes in front of me. So, Dr. Gabor Mate, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He is a Canadian physician and he studies trauma specifically in children. And he talks a lot about personality. And he says that your personality isn't actually you. Now, in Western society, it's very different. It is actually the opposite, is what we're told. But Dr. Gabor says your personality isn't you. And instead, your personality is an environmental adaptation. And your personality is how you're showing up in various contexts. Okay, diving a little bit deeper, your relationship with your body is a personality, your relationship with your job is a personality, your relationship with yourself is a personality, your relationship with your future is a personality, your relationship with your past is a personality, and none of these things are you. They're how you are showing up. And this is so true. As I was going through my life coaching training, this really became apparent to me as I was learning about behavior and breaking habits and patterns. And your personality is not what shapes your behavior. Your behavior is actually what shapes your personality. So when you change your behavior, you change your personality. And thus, the quality of your relationship is dependent upon the quality of your behavior. Tony Robbins has talked about what you get in life is what you're willing to tolerate. So your personality is a reflection of what you're willing to tolerate from yourself. So start thinking about how you can upgrade those behaviors and then upgrade your personality. This is also called self-signaling, when we start to change our identity and our relationships based on upgrading and up-leveling our behavior. And the coolest thing is, you can change your relationship, whether it's to yourself, your job, another person, your past, your present, your future. You can make that change, and a dramatic change right now in this instant. You can make a 180-degree shift. And let me tell you, it will be uncomfortable because you are losing that attachment to the identity and past relationship. So it will be very uncomfortable. But once you get into the habit and breaking the patterns and previous habits and creating new ones, it will become second nature. But at first, it is very cringy. It is very awkward. It is very uncomfortable. And I am saying this from personal experience. The next step is to get organized. This one is so important. So many people will just start new habits right away, but really what you have to do is get present and stop doing certain things, but take note and inventory of what you need to stop doing before you start doing the new thing. So let me just give you an example. Say that you want to lose 20 pounds. Instead of just starting exercising, like, okay, I'm just going to exercise 5 days a week for this amount of time. That's great. But first, you need to get really present and organized. And maybe it's purging all the junk food out of your house. It's thinking about what you need to stop doing in many cases before you start doing the new task that it is that will get you to your future self. So I'm just giving you the example of losing weight. You want to purge your refrigerator, your pantry from all of the junk food. That's just an example. And then start the new behavior of shopping for healthier foods and then implementing that exercise routine. So I'm going to give you a visual of kind of what this looks like. So imagine your life as a garden and using that example that I gave you of losing weight. Instead of just starting to plant on top of all of those weeds and overgrowth and shrubs, planting, say, the new exercise routine, what you want to do is remove the weeds, remove the excess in your garden, and then start planting those beautiful flowers. So hopefully that visual will really help you get clear on how you might need to organize your past and your present in order to get to that beautifully aligned future. You might hear people say, once I have XYZ, like once I have this much money, then I'll be able to do this or that and create those actions. No, 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 no. You need to throw that in the garbage. Instead, first you need to imagine. So let yourself dream. What could my future look like? What would my dream day look like? Really immerse yourself in that imagination and then start embodying that future self and then start doing with that action. And then you will have XYZ. So completely throw that. Once I have this, I will do and be these things. No, no, no. Imagine, do, be, have. And it's in that being and doing that you will start to change those relationships with yourself, with other people, with your job, with your past, with your present, with your future. And it will change how you're showing up in the world based on what you are doing and who you are being. And that is how you serve your biggest, brightest, most effervescent future. I've been on a roll with offering up some journal questions or just really thought prompts in my recent episodes, and I'm going to give you some today for starting to dream about what you want to do, who you want to be, how you want your future to look, and also thinking about those habits that maybe you need to start dropping so you can start doing and being that future version of yourself. So ask yourself, who will I be? Write down all of the different facets of who this person is. Get really, really detailed. It's going to be different for everyone. Next one is, what will I create? And this is just such a dreamy process, these two questions. So I encourage you to write this down and then revisit it as you are dropping those negative habits that you are in right now and replacing that thought loop, the negative thought loop, or your current habits with this positive energy and really letting yourself dream. Going back to that garden visual that I gave you, think about the habits that have held you back in the past. So ask yourself, what are the habits that have held me back in the past? Think of those as the weeds that you're going to pull out of that garden and throw them in the trash. And on the flip side, what are the new habits that are going to help me build my most beautiful future? So those are the flowers or the beautiful plants or whatever it is that you're wanting to plant in that lush, beautiful garden. So what are the new habits that will help me build my most beautiful future? So those are the 4 thought-provoking questions that I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would be so grateful if you would share it with somebody who you think might love it as well. And if you feel inclined to give me a 5-star review on iTunes, I would be so grateful. And with that, I will talk with you next week.